3 years ago, my husband stood in a room full of investors, raised a glass of champagne, and publicly announced my retirement. The strange part, I had never agreed to retire. In fact, the company he was celebrating that night, the designs on the walls, the projects that had made his investors millions, they were all mine. And he thought I would just stand there, smile politely, and disappear. What he didn't know was that 6 weeks before that night, I had already started planning the end of his career. But to understand why I did it, you need to understand how everything started. 7 years earlier, Holloway Studio was nothing more than a 12 by 12 spare bedroom in our apartment, a second-hand drafting table, fabric swatches taped to the wall, and a laptop that overheated if I ran 2 programs at once. My husband barely noticed it. He worked in commercial real estate and spent most evenings complaining about clients who didn't understand his vision. I would listen, pour him a glass of wine, and then quietly go back to work until 2 in the morning. Night after night, year after year, and slowly, something started happening. Clients began recommending me. Projects got bigger. My name started appearing in magazines. But that success created a problem I didn't see coming. Because the closer I got to success, the more interested my husband suddenly became in my work. And that's when everything started to change. But what he did next was something I never expected. Success doesn't explode overnight. It creeps in quietly, until one day you realize everything has changed. For me, that moment came when a hospitality group contacted my studio about redesigning a boutique hotel in downtown Charleston. It was the biggest project I had ever touched. And if I messed it up, Holloway Studio would disappear before it ever really started. So I worked harder than I ever had before. Late nights, endless revisions, walking construction sites at 6 in the morning just to make sure every material was perfect. When the hotel finally opened, something unexpected happened. 3 national design magazines featured the project. My name was printed in every one of them. I remember sitting at the kitchen table reading the article while my coffee went cold. For the first time, I realized something very important. I had built something real. My husband read the article too. He smiled, kissed my forehead, and said something strange. "We did it, babe." I remember pausing for a second, because I wasn't sure what we meant. He hadn't helped design a single thing. But I let it go. At the time, I believed generosity was a strength in a marriage. I didn't realize yet that some people see generosity as permission. And soon my husband would start asking for small favors. At first, it seemed harmless. A few mood boards for his presentations. Just something to impress investors. Nothing official. Nothing complicated. But those mood boards slowly turned into full design concepts. Then renderings. Then complete project visions. And suddenly, investors were praising his eye for design. What shocked me the most wasn't that he used my work. It was that he never once corrected them. But the real problem wasn't the credit. The real problem was the woman who started showing up beside him at every meeting. And the night I realized who she really was, everything finally made sense. That Tuesday evening in March changed everything. I had gone back to the studio to grab my phone. And there it was. My husband's laptop left open on the counter. He had stepped outside to take a call and I saw the email. The subject line. Timeline. I didn't intend to read it. I reached for a glass of water. But my eyes caught the words anyway. Every line confirmed my suspicion. He wasn't just taking credit for my work. He was hiding more than that. And in that moment, the calm, calculated part of me took over. I didn't panic. I didn't scream. I didn't confront him. I drove home quietly, planning every step. Step 1, call my attorney. I needed to confirm what I already knew. Holloway Studio was mine legally, fully, and completely. Step 2. Secure my finances. Years of quiet savings, separate accounts, everything moved into a safe, untouchable place. Step 3. Act like nothing happened. I went back to the studio, reviewed projects with my team, and pretended life was normal. Because the truth was, patience was my strongest weapon. Over the next 6 weeks, I quietly gathered everything I needed: documentation of my work, proof of ownership, legal leverage for the moment I decided to strike. And then came the evening he thought would showcase his success. The invitation arrived for a black-tie investor gala at the Meridian Gallery. He expected me to smile, be gracious, and stay in my place. But I had other plans. The night of the gala, everything was set: the lights, the investors, the speeches, and my husband, completely unaware of what I had prepared. I walked in on his arm, wearing a navy dress, hair done perfectly, a smile that hid every calculation behind it. The gallery was filled with his success, the renderings on the walls, the projects he was presenting. But every warm texture, every natural material, every flowing space, all my work. He hadn't credited me once. Not a word. And yet, I didn't panic. I didn't shout. I moved through the room like I belonged. Because I already did. Then came his moment at the podium. He spoke beautifully about vision, community, the responsibility of a developer. The audience hung on every word, until he said my name. He called me an extraordinary partner, praised my retirement, applauded me for stepping back. The crowd cheered. I held my champagne glass at the exact same angle it had been when he started. My smile was perfectly calm, almost serene. Inside, I was already planning the next move. The evening wasn't a victory for him, it was the final setup for my claim. By Monday, the cease and desist had been sent. Every uncredited project, every stolen concept, every intellectual property misuse, documented, verified, and legally challenged. Investors pulled out. His partner disappeared. His carefully crafted narrative crumbled. And I didn't have to lift a finger beyond the law and my patience. The moment wasn't about revenge. It was about recognition. About justice done quietly, deliberately, and powerfully. The storm was over, but the silence that followed was powerful. Holloway Studio was finally completely mine: my name, my vision, my team, my legacy. Renee and I ran the studio like a finely tuned machine. 6 full-time staff, all sharp, all driven, all knowing that their work mattered and that it would be recognized. I signed licensing agreements that made every project my work, legally and publicly. Even the ones he had once claimed as his own now carried my name, my designs, my credit. Months later, reading a magazine feature on a project we had just finished, my name appeared first. That feeling? Not pride, vindication. Years of late nights in a tiny 12 by 12 room had protected me. My work spoke louder than betrayal ever could. 6 months ago, a brief email arrived from my ex-husband. No apology, he never could, but an acknowledgement. Enough. I didn't respond. Why? Because the work had spoken, louder than any conversation ever could. The lesson is clear. The quietest actions carry the heaviest weight. Patience, focus, and preparation are stronger than words, performances, or deceit. The studio, my team, my designs, they existed. Undeniable. Unstoppable. And that silence? It finally said everything.